And then what Miles Guo said about the Japanese concentration camp, right? That can totally happen again to those who are not part of the whistleblower movement and not part of the new federal state of China. So let's review a little bit. Let's go back in history and see what happened during World War II. So on December 7th, 1941, just hours after the bombing of Pearl Harbor, the FBI arrested about 1,300 Japanese American community and religious leaders and froze their assets, okay, without warning, without any reason. And in January 1942, the very next year, those detainees, they were transferred to prison camps in Montana, in New Mexico, and North Dakota. And concurrently, the FBI searched private homes of thousands of Japanese American residents on the West Coast. This is definitely a concerted effort by the U.S. government. As you can see, it's also apparent that the government in the U.S. and even in Canada, right, because Canada also did the same thing. The U.S. and the U.S. and the Canadian governments, they were keeping tabs on Japanese Americans, perhaps even before Pearl Harbor got bombed. And why did I say that? Well, you can, as you can see, just hours after the bombing, 1,300 Japanese Americans were rounded up. So if the government hadn't been keeping tabs on them, I don't think the government would have rounded them up so quickly. And President FDR, after the bombing of Pearl Harbor, he signed an executive order number 9066 on February 19, 1942, to prevent Japanese espionage. Okay, and as a result, military zones were created in California, in Washington, and in Oregon. And guess what? About 120,000 Americans of Japanese descent, even American citizens, okay, were sent to concentration camps on the West Coast. And the concentration camps went from 1942 to 1945 when they officially closed. And I would imagine that, most people, they were interned in the concentration camps for 3 years, right, from 1942 to 1945. And this is, like I said, roughly, like 120,000 Japanese Americans. And ladies and gentlemen, if you think only the US did this, that's not the case. Canada also sent 21,000 of their Japanese citizens to concentration camps on the West Coast. And even Mexico, sent their Japanese citizens to the United States. So, looking back in history, this is very concerning, right? This sounds like a weaponization of the FBI and the DOJ on its own citizens. And also the fact that the government was keeping surveillance on Japanese Americans, perhaps even before the Pearl Harbor bombing happened.